So let's talk about types of gum, because after you make gum, it's a dough, and it really, you can form it into different things, and we have some terms that we tend to use. So I wanted to kind of go over those terms. The first one is stick gum. We generally talk about a stick of gum, and so stick gum can be in packets like 5 stick, 10 stick. Now they have like 45 stick, but that's kind of a typical stick gum. And this is a stick of gum. So it's usually in a wrapper. We hope it doesn't stick to the wrapper. And that's a stick of gum. So then another form of gum would be a tab of gum. And most of the time you'll find a tab of gum in a packet, kind of like this. And sometimes we call this an envelope packet because it opens like an envelope. And in this case, they're oriented in some stadium pockets, but they're wrapped, and it's kind of like a squatty stick of gum, a thicker stick of gum. That's a tab. We tend to call that a tab. Okay, then we have a chunk, and a chunk, often we see a chunk in a pack like this, a chunk, and it could be a half a pack like this, like 5 or 6 pieces. This is, I think, a 10-piece chunk. We can see a chunk that's wrapped like this in a wrapper. We also can see a chunk of gum that's wrapped, like twist wrapped like that. Double bubble chunk, that's a chunk. And here's one opened up. The thing I would term a chunk gum has to do with the way that it's processed. And in fact, I'm having a hard time really delineating this bubble gum is just single, but sometimes it can be co-extruded. There could be a different color in the center. And I would qualify chunk gum as things that are extruded, but we're starting to get a little bit questionable. Things like an ice cube. Is it a chunk? Is it a pellet? It's hard to kind of say, and I don't know how ice cubes are technically made, if they're sheeted or if they're extruded. If they're extruded, I would consider them a chunk gum. If they're sheeted, they would consider them, well, I still think they're kind of a chunk gum. And if they're coated, I might consider them a pellet, but they're kind of, in the middle, things like this one. So another form of gum would be the pellet. And pellets, of course, it could be that this could be considered a pellet because I think it technically has a little bit of a coating on it. That would be my definition of a pellet, is whether it has coating. We also can see that they sometimes have like speckles on them. Pellets can come in bottles. Bottles have gotten to be really popular. You can have things like these Mentos Pure. These are pellets. Again, they have a coating on them. And more typically in past times, we would see pellets be in a package like this, and this is called a blister pack. These are blisters. You punch them through. That's a blister pack, and it was a common way for pellets to be packaged, but I think bottles have become the predominant way now. Another form is, the gumball. These are going to be hard to display because they're going to roll all over the place, but there's some gumballs, and they are exactly that. We'll look a little bit more how they're made in some processing videos coming up, and that's really what differentiates most of these. Not so much the actual formulation, just that it layers and how it's actually processed. We have a tape. We call this a tape. This is bubble tape, and for the most part, it's a sheeted gum. It's basically a stick. You could cut this and it would make a stick, but they just let it roll and roll and roll and roll. So this is 6 feet. So we call that a tape. It's supposed to look kind of like a roll of tape. And then we have, and I don't have this one, I wasn't finding it at the store, but like Razzles is a pressed gum. So they make it a powder and then they press it in a tablet machine. That's a pressed gum, Razzles. And then you have some candy gum hybrids. So one of the easiest ones to think of here is like a Charmed Blow Pop. and it has gum in the center of candy. So you've got candy with gum. Another, you could kind of consider Mentos Pure Fresh a hybrid because they have a liquid center, but I would really consider them just filled. There's certain kinds of gums that are filled with things. This one is candy that's filled with gum. This one is technically gum that's filled with candy, and then there's candy on the outside too. So I guess you could consider it kind of a hybrid. So candy and gum combinations. Those are kind of some basic types of gum, and they're really, the way that you get to these is based on how you process it.